Howdy, friends, and welcome to the Alt Country Show. I'm your host, Emily Smith, and today I get to chat with Philip Bowen. If you haven't heard his name yet, you will. He's about to drop his debut album, Old Kanawha, on August 18th. And when you're dropping a debut album, or any album, one of the key things you need is press. You need PR. You can do it yourself, or you can hire a PR agent. It either takes a ton of time or it takes a ton of money. But every now and then, some organic, magical goodness happens, lightning strikes, and you get some huge press leading up to your debut, like being on America's Got Talent, a show that's seen by millions of people. And Philip is lucky enough to currently be a contestant on America's Got Talent. He is a classically trained violinist. He gets down on the fiddle, and he is showcasing those skills on America's Got Talent. We talk about that on the episode today. You can't get much better press than that leading up to your debut album release. On top of that, throughout the pandemic, Philip really built up his social media following. He's got over 1 million followers on TikTok who come to see him play the fiddle and stay for his infectious personality. His explosion on TikTok led to him connecting with all sorts of artists like Zach Bryan, Charles Wesley Godwin, Josiah and the Bonvilles, and more, some of them who are featured on this new album. We'll talk about growing his social media, his journey so far on America's Got Talent, his upcoming album, Old Kanawha. We'll deep dive on some of the tracks and how they came to be, and a whole lot more on today's episode, so I hope you'll stick around. It's all coming up on the Alt Country Show. This is our second interview episode in a row. The interview episodes can be found wherever you get your podcasts, but we also do music plus talk episodes. These are hand-curated playlists, kind of radio-style shows. I introduce you to the artists, tell you about what they have going on, and I think it's a good time. Those can be found exclusively on Spotify. Our last Music Plus Talk episode was a rundown of my favorite alt-country albums released thus far in 2023. It has become our most listened to episode. People keep going back to it. I think because it's so long. It's a really long episode. It's like 2 episodes combined. I recommend just making that your daily playlist. Get to know these artists, get to know their music, and hopefully we'll get to chat with them here on the show one day soon. Right now, let's get into today's interview with Philip Bowen here on the Alt Country Show. I know you grew up as a classical violinist and you play the fiddle. They're both kind of the same thing to me. Can you tell me the difference between a violin and a fiddle?
Yeah, the only difference at all is in how you play it. So,
Okay.
I grew up. I took music lessons from the time I was 4, like all the way through college, from like a classical music perspective. But then I've been, playing like Appalachian style bluegrass and fiddle in that same window, just because of where I grew up and everything. So I kind of had like both sides of the coin there with that instrument growing up. So when I was playing Mozart, it's classical. When I'm playing whatever bluegrass, it's the fiddle.
That's it. So it's just what you call it for the style of music.
Yeah, it's like some have like some people have like a 5-string, like the violin / fiddle normally has 4 strings. Some people have like a 5-string instrument, but it's still either a violin or a fiddle. It's just style of play.
Okay. Well, you grew up playing music, classical violin. When did you start making the pivot to making music a career? I know you've done some session work and you've got your new album coming out.
Yeah, I have kind of had a weird journey. Like I did the college band thing, like a lot of people, and then I had some friends that were like doing the whole, we're going to drop everything, move to Nashville, just go for it. And like, it wasn't going super well. Like they graduated like a year ahead of me and they were like, whatever, like 10 people in the same apartment kind of a vibe.
Right.
And it was freaking me out because I was, I don't know, I was like really scared of doing the whole starving artist thing. And I was worried mostly that it would make me not enjoy music anymore, because I started really playing guitar and writing songs in college, and then I so like life kind of took over. I went and got my master's in marketing because I just wasn't ready for I was like, well, I'll do my graduate degree, so I went and did that, and married, I have 3 young kids, so like life goes on. And then maybe right before COVID started, I had made a decision. I was like, I'm gonna give this one more real good try. I don't want to like leave music on the table and regret not doing it. And so I just kind of started getting after it, and the whole world shut down because of COVID. So I started doing stuff online, just to try to keep the commitment to myself. And like the traction I got doing that during 2020, like really kind of helped to change my whole life, to see like that it was possible to do it. So, this is
Wow.
like the kind of like another go around for me a bit. And I just like, it's like every day goes by, it seems like something different will happen. And I can't believe it. So it's been a blessing for sure.
That's amazing. Yeah, I've been checking out your social media. So I've been doing podcasts and radio for like 20 years now.
Hmm.
And I never did social media. And then the company I worked for went out of business. And I was like, oh, I don't
Yeah,
know where all my friends are now.
I know
So
it's
it's
hard.
so nice to like diversify in the way you have and to blow up the way you have.
Mhm.
Your TikTok's so fun to watch. How did that happen? Like, was there the first viral video, or did it just slowly build over time? Give us
Well,
some tips for us social media newbies.
I would say too that like one of the big things I tried to focus on is being my own voice, like finding something that was unique to like just get an audience. And so, everybody and their mother was sitting in front of the camera with an acoustic guitar playing a song they wrote, you know, and I do that too. But I was like, well, it's so hard to find your way or make traction in this business. And so I was like, what do I do that's a little bit different? So I kind of utilized my marketing brain for that. And I was like, all right, well, I'll just get on there. And like, I have a ability with the fiddle. Like I can honestly like, I can pick any song on Spotify and I try to get it within 5 or 6 seconds and just start playing along and jamming with it. And so I would do these live shows where people could like tip request their songs. And then I would make videos the same way. And so I would start making the videos off of the most requested things that I would get. And so, like, for example, like that's kind of how I met Zach Bryan, was through doing this something on the Orange cover, or Coulter Wall, because I did one of his songs. And like, this is no lie, like that was, I think I did hit the first Coulter Wall song in 2021, and I had not heard of him yet. I mean, I heard his name loosely, but I didn't
Yeah,
listen to his music at all. And then I was like, oh man, this is so good. It was like the
yeah.
song Sleeping on the Blacktop. And so I've met we connected like our different teams and stuff through social, through that kind of a thing, which is truly surreal. Like how just is very this day and age kind of a thing, where
Right.
your paths can cross in that way. So that's kind of how I started doing it. I would just base it off what people were asking to hear, and then I would try to throw people curveballs like whatever, System of a Down or Gangster's Paradise, or maybe what you weren't expecting. And that would help me as an independent artist to, instead of 5 people in the room, I might get like 5,000 people in the room. And then when the audience was at its biggest point, I would say, hey, I'm going to play an original. I'll pull the guitar, sing an original. Like, hey, if you like that, go find me on Spotify. And I'd do more requests. I'd do another original. And I did that. And some people started asking for originals. And then I would just, I mean, I literally built it like one person at a time. It's, yeah, especially that first year or two was a
Yeah.
real, I loved playing and stuff, but it was a slog to like get it cooking. And so, yeah, that's
I
just kind of how I chipped away at it every single day.
I love hearing this, and I know hearing that will be helpful to a lot of our listeners too, because a lot of smaller independent bands and stuff are
Sure.
fans of the show, and that's good tips for anybody trying to build an
Yeah.
audience. So that's
Yeah.
great. I know that you play the fiddle or violin along with all sorts of genres of music. And
Mhm.
it kind of blew my mind going through all your videos. I'm like, dang, this really works. Like,
Yeah.
is there a genre you think in particular that's been missing the fiddle or violin for a while? Because your music just like your playing sounds so good with all of them.
I appreciate that. That's kind of you to say. And I don't know, like some of the stuff that I've enjoyed playing over the most is I got a chance to do this like random like lo-fi hip hop project through some session stuff a couple years ago. And I listen to lo-fi a lot, like when I'm, because it doesn't have words. And so like if I'm just doing busy work or whatever, I love that kind of like music because it's got a good vibe to it, but it's like I can just focus. And so like I was never expecting to do that. And also like, there's some genres like hip hop, for example, is like really heavily sample based. And so a lot of the strings you hear in hip hop are like synthesizer or keyboard strings. And so I think the reason that hits so different when you hear it with a real string instrument is like is that's like, oh man, like you didn't realize it could sound so good with that. And I think that is the gift of like you might see this guy from West Virginia with a 100-year-old wooden fiddle, and you don't expect that to work with that genre or hear that genre. And so that's kind of worked well for me in a lot of ways. And I like getting thrown curveballs like that, because that's like, oh, this is a fun challenge. We'll see, we'll kind of see how it sounds.
Yeah. I think it's a really cool concept, and it made me kind of just like rethink the instrument, like how many ways that it can work.
That's mission accomplished. I love that.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm going for. Exactly.
That's great. My main like excitement for having you on the show today is your new album that's coming out, Old Kanawha. Um,
Yeah.
it's dropping August 18th. You've got 2 singles out so far. Technically three, because one dropped in 2022.
Yeah, well, like I dropped there's a couple songs on it that are like recorded. Like there's a couple songs like Anymore and Stella are
Okay.
songs that I had like released through all this journey of singles. But like these like diehard fans that have been with me since the beginning were like I let this is again this day and age story. So this online audience and following that I have from doing these Twitch shows and TikTok shows, I let them vote on every previously released song I had as a single. And I was
Oh,
like, all right, like if the top two votes, I will put them on the album, because they wanted to be able to, they've been a part of the journey for this is like year 4 for me. And
right.
so they wanted to be able to have it like on vinyl and on CD and as part of this body of work. And so
I'm getting the vinyl, by the way. I saw it. It's orange, correct?
yeah, there's like a
It's
creamsicle.
really
There's like a
pretty.
creamsicle. Thank you. Yeah, I was so hyped. Like there's a black one, but and that thing has been like, that's what I'm saying. It truly has blown my mind. I just went through the test pressings of and they're producing all the other ones right now. And like to be able to have that like in my hands, after all the quantity of work, it's so to kind of go back to what you were saying, like that's the reason that Anymore and Stella are part of the album as that album, are because like that is what the fans wanted that have been with me for the longest period of time. And
Yeah.
so I also like, the 13th song on the track is an acoustic version of Anymore that like I
Yeah.
re-recorded in the studio with those musicians, just kind of as like a gift to the people that have been with me since I started this journey. And
Well,
then
I
the
haven't
rest
been
of it.
with you since the beginning, but I really thought that instrument or that was a gift, the acoustic version to me too. I really loved
Oh,
it.
thank you.
So
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
yeah, I'm a big fan of the whole album. And when did you decide? Like, was there a point? Was it in 2022? Like, were you like, I'm going to make this album with the fans? Or I guess
Yeah,
what I'm getting at, honestly, with that is, and I'm not even there yet, but the America's Got Talent thing, like, what a boost for you right before
oh
your
man.
album comes out. Like,
And it
was
was
that
it was it
planned at
was
all? Did
not
it just
planned that
fall in
way.
your lap? Like, how did that
No,
work out?
yeah, like it was I went out there in March and filmed my audition episodes. So all the audition episodes that are airing, well, depending on when you listen to this, like over the summer of 23, these audition episodes are airing. And those are all obviously taped in advance. So they record them in the spring. So I got invited, so I knew I was going to go out there to LA, and I did my episode in March. And then the thing is that you have no guarantee of like how long you're going to be on TV, if you actually will make it on TV, and then when it will air. And so a week before the season premiere, they called me and they were like, "Hey, we have two pieces of good news. One, like we're going to give you a full segment, which is like in TV time, it's 5 full minutes, which is an eternity on like a 30 an hour show. And
Right.
then like they like you, like them being NBC, like they like you for the premiere." And I was like, oh, like this Tuesday? And they're like, yeah. So it
Whoa.
was like and I had Old Kanawha, the single with CWG, my buddy Charles, was coming out on the Friday. So as an artist, like I'm on national television on Tuesday, and I
Yeah.
find out that like the first single that I'm actually like really pushing on this album, like really putting some effort behind and like trying to, okay, here's my thing, like was Friday. And then I was also in Kansas City that weekend for this event called the Big Slick that I got invited to, with a bunch of like, it was like a celebrity charity thing. And like, so, I got to play on stage with Darius Rucker that weekend, and like, Paul Rudd and Eric Stone, all these people were there. And so
Yeah.
like, this is all happening within 5 days of each other with this first release. And so
That's
that was like a
insane.
true,
You
just a
can't ask
true,
for
oh man, just a true blessing. I was like, oh, this is so nuts. Like, I can't believe all this is happening at once. And so, yeah, that's kind of how that happened. Like I initially was going to do the album in this, and like earlier in the summer, but then I had some publicity support. Shout out to my friends over at Sweetheart PR. And so then it was like, let's push it a little bit and do it the right way, like get more whatever. And so that gave me time to get with the team, you know, and like, okay, how
Yeah.
are we going to do the vinyls? How are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? You know, and so just kind of like trying to plan it out as best that we could. And so that's how that one ended up happening.
I'm like so happy for you because this album's phenomenal, and
Oh, thank you.
just to have all the pieces kind of fall together like that is just, you can't make
Yes.
that up. Like it's just
It's like, yeah,
crazy.
you know, because
Um,
you go through so many I mean, it's like I said, in this industry too, like you go through so much of like this stuff where, you know, doors are always closed or locked. And then it's like, oh, like I thought this was going to be great. And then you end up like getting some maybe not great feedback from the industry, the quote, air quotes industry about it. And then, you know, it's so easy to be discouraged. And it's just,
I
I have just found that it's like, as many times as you can get off the mat, you know, and then you get a little win, then you get a medium sized win, then you start getting some big wins, and it's just like, yeah. To be honest with you, I almost, um, just did not even. In December, I was like really close to like just throwing in the towel. To be honest with you, like I was so burned out. I was doing weights. I was trying to do every single thing, and I was working too much on it, and I had already finished recording the album, and I had
yeah.
got a particularly like crusty piece of feedback from somebody in the industry about the song with Charles, and it was like I don't know what, it doesn't matter, but it was like, and I ended up hanging out on my wall in the studio. But like I was like, I had a very mopey weekend, and I was just like, you know, this is just too hard. I don't know that, you know what I mean? Like it was like year 4, and I was like, I just don't think this is worth doing. I don't know if I can do this, and I didn't know about any of the things that have happened this year in December. And then the day after Christmas, I got a call from Mountain Stage to do Mountain Stage, which was huge for me as a West Virginian.
Oh
And
yeah.
in February, I did Rolling Stone. In March, I was at an AGT, you know, and then it was just like something every month. And I don't know. This is a way too long of an answer. I'm sorry, but like
No, I
that's
love
how
it.
this all like. It was just like I was so I did not finish the year well in my mental space. I was just like, man, I just feel so burned out. And
Yeah.
so I just took a break for like 2 weeks. I didn't touch anything music related. I just went home to West Virginia with my family, and we all just hung out, and I moped around for a little bit. And then I was like, no, I still had the fire for sure. And I was like, all right, let's get after it. And then I got a call from Mountain Stage, and I was just like, new life, you know? So
That's so awesome. I mean, I know that feeling just
mhm.
like from my perspective with my career. Um, like my company went out of business. I didn't think, I was there 15 years. I never thought that was going to happen, and then
Yeah.
crashed. And then I tried to build a new company with some friends, and it didn't work out and crashed. And now I'm
Hmm.
trying to build this again. And I have
Hmm.
those moments where I'm like, does anybody even care? Does it
Yeah.
even matter? Like, why am I doing this?
100%.
But then I also have those moments where I get an email from a band that I played, and they're like, "Oh my god, thank you. I got
Hmm.
200 more streams because of you," or whatever it is.
That's
Like,
right. That's
and I'm
right.
like, that's why I'm doing it, and it does matter. And
It does.
your music matters. It's beautiful. It's exciting. I have so many
Thanks.
questions about the album, and I'm going to get to that in 1 minute. But I do want to touch back on America's Got Talent really quick.
Yeah.
I've never been like a huge watcher of the show, but I watch all the clips online. I've seen
Hmm. Yeah.
every clip. But so how does it work? Or you're going back on, right?
Yeah. So I was trying to like, I've got this like thing in like this, like my little cheat sheet of like what I can say about the show.
Yeah.
So, okay. So there are live shows. The next step for someone in my position will be like to go to these live shows.
Okay.
So what I don't know is like what I cannot specify just yet is like the date that I'm going back. So I do know that the live shows like start airing on August 22nd, and there's 5 of them. And then if you make it through one of those, you get to be on like the finals. So the
Okay.
next time, like if you go back, it's much more of a production. You're out there like almost like 10 days the next time because it's so much prep work. There's a lot more that goes into these live shows. It's live television. The performances are much more like bells and whistles production wise and stuff like that. So it's been this like weird headspace for me because on the one hand, I've been having like, meetings and trying to really prep for AGT and do my best work because just being on there once was great for me. And then I'm like, okay, whatever happens, I'll do it again. And if I'm fortunate enough to be on there twice, we'll just make the most of it and see what happens. And so I've just been trying to do that, but also like, my life has got really crazy over the past year or two with how things have grown. So it's like, okay, figuring out like touring stuff and all the business side of this, like, management and
Right.
agents and PR and all that stuff, and just trying to like keep my head straight doing all of those things at once, so
Absolutely.
anyways, yeah, there's a
It's a
lot. There's
lot.
just
You've
a
got
lot going
so
on.
much going on.
Yeah.
It's I tend to work with more, up and coming like starting out artists, which you are. This is your debut album.
Yep.
But I'm like looking at you online and I'm like, there's so much. Like I don't even know what to talk
Yeah.
about first because it's so
I
much.
know.
It's so cool. Yeah, I'm just excited for you. Can you talk about like the title of the album and
Sure.
does that tie back to your West Virginia roots and how did
Yeah,
that all come together?
absolutely. So I grew up in a small town called Montgomery, West Virginia, a couple thousand people max, and but it's very picturesque. It's beautiful. It sits right in the valley, and like if I walk out of my house I grew up in, where my parents are, you can walk out of the house and walk about 20 yards to the backyard, and there's the river. And the Kanawha River is not small; it's huge. It's like this big wide river. There are spots where it's almost 100 feet deep. I mean, it is a big old ancient river, and so it's just always been a big part of my life. And so, this whole album to me, I really wanted to try to write these songs that are very special to me personally, et cetera, et cetera. And so that river has been such a part of my life through, and I've always been fascinated with like time and history and all those things. And so it's just fascinating to me. Like sometimes like I'll think of my grandparents who are no longer here, or like aunts and uncles that have passed on. And like we've all been on that river together. We've all experienced life together and looked at that same view. And my great grandparents came here and looked at that same view. And so it ties me back home a lot. And I think that's what's special about West Virginia is like the people, and there's a very much sense of place there. It's a tiny little state, but um, and so it was important to me to record as much of the album as possible in West Virginia
Yeah.
versus Nashville. And that's not because there's not talent in Nashville, but it's because I wanted to put that um, investment into the state and the creators and people that I really believe in the state. And so, a little more travel for me and stuff like that, but that was okay. Like I was there for almost 2 whole weeks through different spurts, recording and everything. So it was all recorded there, minus like 2 songs and mastered in Nashville, but everything was recorded and mixed down in West Virginia. So the
And that
title
was
of that,
at McCord House Studios
yeah,
with
McCord House
Zach
Studios
McCord.
Zach McCord, who I met through CWG. I met through
Okay.
Charles. I met because like he's like we met. Charles and I met when he was opening for Zach Bryan when they came through Detroit, and he's like, "Hey man, I'm gonna be at the Fillmore if you want to holler, and like we can record a couple of videos." And I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." So I went down there, and that was our first time to like hang out in person. And so we were
Yeah.
just, anyways, talking about a bunch of people we knew back home. And I was like, "This guy reached out to me to do some session work for him." He's like, "Oh, like Zach's great people. I write with him." So I met Zach through session work first, and then anyways, that's how we ended up doing like the whole album at his studio, which worked out super well.
That's awesome. I love Charles Wesley Godwin. I played him on my show in its previous iteration when he was just a small artist, and I've got to watch him rise up, and it's been incredible. I found him through Rachel at Sweetheart.
Oh
So
yeah, okay,
yeah.
yeah.
So
He's great. He's obviously super talented, crushing it, and a great person, friend as well. A really good dude.
and so anybody that's friend or fans of Charles Wesley Godwin, he is on the title track from the album. How did that come about? Did he come in the studio with you to record, or was that recorded remotely? How did that go down?
He recorded at the same studio, and it was we were like ships in the night because he was coming off of something and being home with his family for a little bit. And so where his hometown is not too far from where the studio is, maybe like 30-40 minutes. And so I had just flown, I was there and I had flown out to the West Coast for like a private event thing that I had been hired to do, like a corporate kind of gig. I think it was in Salt Lake or something. It doesn't matter. But like, so we like passed, and then him and Zach were like sending me pictures and videos while they were there together. But that came to me because when I met him, we were talking about this song. And I was like, man, like I'm really about to dig into this album, and I've got this song. And he's like, well, I'd love to hear it. And then we started kicking it back and forth, and I was like, I don't know, you want to do a verse and like feature? And he's like, yeah, I would love to. So it was very
Yay.
organic, and I think it spoke to him like it spoke to me because of like, what it's about. And he sings a lot about nature and stuff too, like in terms of like being more than just trees and mountains, but like the meaning that it has
Yeah.
for, to you and stuff like that. So I think that it was a natural fit to work
Yeah,
together on
it's
that.
kind of a
I'm super
tie-in
glad
with
it worked out.
Seneca, his album.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
exactly right. Yeah.
really
Yeah.
cool.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I love that track with Charles Wesley Godwin. You have another track that's already out, the single Vampire in Appalachia,
Yeah.
with Josiah and the Bonvilles. I love the song. It might be my favorite song on the album,
Thank
but I
you.
don't know that I fully understand the meaning. You have the lyric, "There's a vampire in Appalachia and we're running out of blood." Can you tell me the inspiration and the meaning behind that lyric? And
Yeah, sure. That's definitely like the that song and the one after are the two heaviest in
yeah,
terms of like, I my stuff usually like maybe a little more may leans more like a little positive, but like those two are important to me. So the reason I mentioned the other one is that I wrote Vampire in Appalachia and the song after it called A Murder. I wrote those as companion songs to each other. And so Vampire in Appalachia is about, and this isn't just unique to Appalachia, but it's very prominent there. There's two things. One is like this whole extraction economy with, coal. And
mhm,
what that means is that these companies will come in and they'll empty a whole mountain out of coal, and most of the money leaves. It
yeah,
goes overseas, or it goes to New York, or it goes wherever. And also the effect that that kind of work has on people. And I don't know any family in the area I grew up in that doesn't have at least one person down in those coal mines. And so, my grandfather's brother, we called him Uncle Bob. He passed away from black lung. Like it's very close to me, and
yeah,
that situation. And then verse 2 is about like the opioid epidemic, which, like I said, is not unique to Appalachia, but it's a major pain point for, Virginia, Kentucky, North Carolina, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania and stuff. People, once again, I honestly don't know one family member or a friend that doesn't have somebody in their family that has either passed away from or had their life ruined by this opioid crisis. And so it was important to me to talk about that. And when I had a very close person to me pass away because of this, um, I was driving home from the funeral back to Michigan, and I was thinking, just that visceral image of like a vampire, but not at a person, but at like a region. And so this
yeah,
vampire in Appalachia is talking about, that line is what popped in my head first. Like, there's a vampire in Appalachia, we're running out of blood, is because there's it's such a special region because of the people, but it's a much often understood place, and a place that's been taken advantage of a lot by, corporations and media and whatever else. And so it was important to me to talk about like the negative side of Appalachia, or stuff we faced, as Appalachians. And so that was how that all came to be.
that's really cool. I love that you're, investing in your home and where
Mhm.
you came from and telling that story. This may not be something that you're equipped to talk on, or maybe you are. What is the solution to that? The Is there any
Well,
like is there anything we can do to help that region with these things that are going on? Is there
yeah, that's a great question. And there are there's some great organizations. Like, first of all, like there's an organization called Healing Appalachia that a lot of my musical friends are playing at this year. Like, for me, it was a timing thing with this whatever TV stuff is going on, but that's a great organization. But there's also lots of other ways, just I guess as a person, to help. Like, you can be there and be present there for something like that's not like, for example, if you like the great outdoors, go there and do some rafting. Just go be there. Like, go ride your bike, enjoy the sights and sounds and all that kind of stuff, and invest in the area as somebody just enjoying a new region maybe you haven't been to before. And then some of those bigger questions in terms of like the economy and stuff like that, like, it's very difficult because I know that the coal industry I have nothing against people that work in that industry, that have family that works in that industry, and it's provided a lot of good things for a lot of people. But my personal opinion is that we have to find something in the region that is our calling card, that is not also killing us. So we have
right?
to like find, whether we find a way to invest more into, and there's people that are way smarter than me working on that all the time.
Right. Yeah.
And so my whole goal with this tune was to, like, it's kind of like a lament a little bit because it makes you sad, but also like almost like an awareness thing, to be like, hey, like, like, this is happening. Like, let's acknowledge it for what it is. And I think sometimes by calling something what it honestly is and seeing the problem for what it is helps you to like address it versus pretending
Right.
or like, I don't want to talk about this. Let's talk about only something good, but that doesn't really work. So that was kind
Yeah.
of my goal with the song, is just to kind of just get it out, and then also, maybe draw an awareness to an issue.
Yeah, that's awesome. As I asked that question, I realized how big it was. Like I live in Tulsa, Oklahoma,
Hmm.
which is oil and gas land. And I'm like, how will you fix the oil and gas
Oh my
situation?
gosh.
Well,
Yeah,
let
and
me.
I've played at private events before where like the person that was organizing was like, hey, like we got so and so here. Maybe like not want to sing the vampire song. I was like, why? And I was like, well, it's kind of like sensitive to this or that. And I was like, it's my song. I'm singing it. I've never not sung it. So, but anyways, like
I
it's
love
just
that.
it's a tricky subject though because anyways, there's a lot of money in it, which is what makes it hard. And it's
Right.
like a lot of history and
Same
a
with
lot of
oil and
money.
gas. It
Yeah.
provides all the jobs around here,
Hmm.
but then there's the back end of that as well. But
Yeah. And
yeah.
there's just got to be more than that to like you know to help the region, which is what I think we all want. Like people from there is what we all want. Like we all want healing for the region. And so
Yeah.
if I can do that in a tiny way through something like that is a win for me.
Well, that song tugged on my heartstrings. A lot of the songs on your album did. One that really got me as a mama was Call on Me.
Mhm.
Can you talk about that song and how that one came to be?
Yeah, that's I have 3 young kids, like I said, all under the age of 10. And so
I have
I'm
three
a
too.
hey, very nice. And I'm definitely like the guy, like I cried everything. Like I'm my daughter kindergarten graduation. I'm like the dad that's sitting back there like, oh man, I can't, like so. I I don't know what, like I have always been so fascinated by like the passage of time and like how it's good and how it's bad. And my grandma, when I was a kid, used to tell me, she'd say, I'm gonna tell you something and you're not gonna understand it till you have children, but the days are long, but the years are
These are
short when you
short.
have
Yeah.
children. And I never, so like I started with that idea. It's her telling me that. And so I wanted to just try to like it, it can be about, obviously it's about parents and kids, but it could even be about, friends or whatever. But it's this whole idea of like just trying to like, I want to try to do like a different take on this like person giving their son advice or daughter advice song idea. I wanted to try to do a little bit of a different spin on it. And I just wanted to, I am always moved by like when like I have some family that are like parents of teenagers and they're like have
Yeah.
this relationship with their teenager where like, hey, listen, no matter what kind of trouble you get into, like they at least know they can call me anytime. And I
Yes.
love that, like that confidence in each other as parent and child to be like, listen, it doesn't matter what you do or where you go, like I'm here for you. Like there's nothing you can do that's going to make me shut the door all the way. So yeah, so and I think it can be relevant through different ages and stages of life. And so I co-wrote that with a guy, Kevin Mack, who is based out of Nashville. And he's got a pub deal down there. And we played the Bluebird together. The first time I played the Bluebird was with him. And we kind of, I had the idea and I was getting really stuck. And so he was great. Like we co-wrote that together. He really helped me with the bridge and stuff. So that's kind of how all that came to be.
Yeah. That's a beautiful one. And I got that message from it. I have the same like philosophy with parenting. Right now I tell my kids all the time, when you get older, if this or this happens, call me. Call me.
Call
Because
me,
I
call
was
me.
scared to call my parents.
I know
I was
exactly.
afraid
Yeah.
I'd get in trouble.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
want them to call me.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So I really loved that track. Anymore, which you said was a fan favorite, is on the
Hmm.
album. Like you said, you have
Hmm.
two versions of that, an
Hmm.
acoustic version. And I love that one. It's another tearjerker. Can you tell me a little bit about the story behind that? It's a beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful story.
Yeah, thank you. That's dedicated to my grandparents, and the true story is that watch. I've got it behind me in a case on my desk, but I've got the watch. I've got this beautiful watch. It's like my grandmother got it from my grandfather on their 50th wedding anniversary, and so my grandpa passed away a few years back, and that was like the only thing I really had of his, and I had it on my
Yeah.
desk as like a timepiece, and I was writing another song, and the watch just like stopped working. And for whatever reason, like it just hit me like a ton of bricks, and I felt like I was like it's like that last thing I had of his that was like working and like moving, it just wasn't. And this never happens for me in this way, but I'm telling you, like I had this memory of the conversation we had at his wife had passed away first, and at the cemetery, like we were walking away, and it's been a long few days for him. They've been married for over 50 years, and he was just kind of sitting there with a soft smile. And I was like, "Are you okay, Pops?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, I just, he's like, it's just they'll never make another one like your grandmother anymore. That's exactly what he said, and I wrote it down. And it was like that conversation came back to me like as clear as day. And I wrote that entire song front to back in less than a half an hour. And I've
Wow.
never done that in my entire life ever. Like I usually like agonize over songs for weeks and
Yeah.
weeks. And I mean, besides like a couple of minor tweaks on one of the verses, like that song, it was just in there, and it was like the melody, everything. I had it like ready to go, and it was so weird. And
I hear
people have
musicians say that all the time. Everybody has one or two songs that just came out.
it was yeah, it was like
It's
I mean,
such a cool
not to
thing.
be weird, but it was a gift that they had for me that was just there. And it
Yeah.
was like, here you go. It was just like the most surreal thing. And for the longest time, I couldn't play that song without like getting I'd get choked up. I have to stop and start over, you know? And
Yeah.
so like it is obviously a very special song to me. And I never dreamed that it would be received as well as it has. Cause sometimes people will tell you like in the industry, like, well, your songs need to be a little more generally specific so people can relate to them more. And I don't think that's always true, but I do think that that song it feels like so personal, and people have responded to it so well. Like they make connections to it, which is really your dream come true as a songwriter. It's, to have that touch people in that way. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's one of my favorite ones to sing and do.
So August 18th is the big release day. Is there another single before that comes out?
Yeah, so Lightning Bugs comes out on August 4th. That'll
Ooh,
be
I
like
like
the
that one
last
too.
single. Yeah, Lightning Bugs is special in a different way because there is an acoustic version of it that lives out there on Spotify, like a live acoustic version. And
Yeah.
that's the first song I ever tried to put on Spotify. And because I had no idea what I was doing. And the way that I got that audio is that I had an iPad with a pair of headphones, just like the ones you have on these old iPhone headphones.
Yeah.
And I had and I had to get each one perfect. So I did 5 separate videos on my iPad of me doing this song into that mic front to back, main vocal, guitar, fiddle 1, fiddle 2, harmony. Then I went into iMovie, extracted all the audio, meshed it together, and like ran it through a Korean app that would add like reverb and compression to audio to make it sound a little more whatever. I had no idea what I was
Yeah.
doing, but I was just
Right.
like, I gotta get it done. I gotta get something on Spotify. Everybody's asking me for Spotify, blah blah blah. So I did it. I put it out, and I was like, all right. And people were like, oh, this, and it's always done so well. And so it was
That's
awesome to
so
be able
cool.
to record a studio version of it but I love that one because I mean, I wrote that song on the way back from a trip that we had in West Virginia. We were like boating at night, and like the mountains were just covered in green because of the fireflies. And we were like, talking about the lightning bugs and talking about everybody's taking turns being the DJ on the boat. And I would like one song, my wife likes another, blah, blah. And so I was pumping gas on the way home. And we had just been talking about Nick Drake and the Milk Carton Kids because she loves him, I love them. And I was sitting there pumping gas, and I was just thinking like, oh, she likes Nick Drake, and I like those. And I was like, ooh. So I put a voice memo on my phone, went home that night after I went to bed. I came back down in my studio, and I wrote most of that one in that evening. And I was like, I just built it out from there. But that's how that one came to be.
I love it.
So, and the studio version sounds much better than the iPhone headphones version, but it was cool to kind of get that one out there in like a real studio format
I
too.
didn't
So
see the iPhone headphones version. I'm gonna
it's
go listen
yeah.
to it right
If you
after
go
this.
if you look up just like Lightning Bugs in my name, it has like an acoustic parentheses beside it, but that's the one.
I'm
And
super
you can let me
excited.
know if you could tell if it was recorded via iPad video.
That's so impressive. I'm so excited to go listen to that after this.
It's one of those like just figure it out moments, like when you're like
Yeah.
just trying to get something going. Well, like I'm not gonna quit. And I mean that stupid song took me like I mean so many hours of work to do it the wrong way, but I got a song up there, and I felt so proud to have like a song on there. So
That's
I
gonna
like
be like the coolest thing as people discover your music and then they get to go back and
Mhm.
see those types of versions of the songs.
Yeah.
That's, as a music fan, I love that. I love
I did.
going back and finding the weird versions and the
Me
early
too. I've
versions.
I've always liked that too. And I had somebody in a Music City be like, "Oh, you should take down all your old stuff." And I was like, "No, I put too much
Good
time."
for you.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
I was like, "No." Well, people don't want to hear that. I was like, "Yeah, they do. They listen to it every day." And even if they don't, like, I've worked so hard on that. Like, why would I just take it down? They're like, "No,
Yeah.
no, you want
And the
everything needs
story and everything, it's so
yeah,
cool.
everything
Yeah,
needs to
that's
sound radio ready." I was like, "Whatever. I don't think so." But I'm glad you said that because I'm the same way.
I
I like to
love
find the
that.
artist and like hear all their old stuff and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, back
So
in like the Napster days, I was downloading, any kind of some of
the
my favorite
demos,
band.
all that stuff.
Yes,
Yeah,
anything I could get. So
absolutely. Same
yeah,
here.
I think that'll be super cool. You mentioned touring. I know you have a lot of stuff coming up. I saw you're going to be at Americana Fest. I'm going to be there, so I'm going to try to come
Awesome.
see you. Tell us where we can go support you live and what you've got coming up.
Yeah, so I'm putting all the dates are like on my site, obviously, and stuff like that, and I'm just kind of adding more all the time. So, like I said, I've been kind of going back and forth with booking and management, decisions, stuff like that. But I've got a couple of dates in Nashville with Josiah and the Bonnevilles. We have a couple of shows that are at Third and Lindsley. They're sold out already, which is great. And I'm doing some dates with Wyatt Flores in September, unless I get called back out to LA during that same exact time frame for TV. And then I've got like I'm doing a show, some shows at the end of July, like in Kentucky and McLean, Virginia. Just kind of like working my way out. And I'm also going to be in Vancouver this summer, Chicago, and all over the place. But my website will have all the dates. But I'm just trying to like, find a balance. I don't necessarily like want to be gone all the time touring, but I definitely like love doing shows. So just trying to like book what I want to book and get out there and see people.
So when you play, do you play with a band or you play solo? How do you do that?
Yeah, sometimes like so I've done a couple of shows this year with like the full band. I did something for West Virginia University's like spring game. And I did like that a full band show for like 90 minutes. But sometimes I just do like singer-songwriter style. Like if it's just me, I'll go bring the guitar and play a couple songs on the fiddle. So it just depends on like what the venue is and like what's going on. So I don't have, at least yet, I don't have like a dedicated band that I tour with all the time. So it just kind of depends on what's going on in the show.
Okay. Is there anything else that you have coming up? I mean, you've already done so much, but the album's coming. Is there an album release show?
I don't. That has been the trickier part of all this, is because we've been thinking about doing like an album release party, et cetera, maybe down even in Nashville. But the problem has been like kind of figuring out all this stuff balanced with the TV appearance. So we may end up doing that like after
all that goes down.
That is done. Like try to organize something and do do maybe one in West Virginia and maybe one in Nashville or something, and do some kind of like I don't know, like I'm release small tour or something. I don't know. So,
and if you do go back on America's Got Talent, is that something we vote for, or is that just the judges pick?
Yeah, so definitely, yeah. So this next round, whatever happens with these live shows is so let's say the lives are on a Tuesday night. For 24 hours, there is a voting period. Okay. So definitely need votes. And then if you kind of make that top 2 of your episode, then you're going on to the next show. And there's like a live results show the next night. And then I think that there's like a couple of like, oh, we're bringing this person back because the judges like them or whatever. But for the most part, it's vote based on those nights.
All right, we got you. I'm gonna tell everybody. I'm excited.
I'll take every vote I can get.
Yeah, that's super exciting for an independent artist. I just love it. I'm excited for your album. Amazing. I hope everybody buys it up. I'm going to order the vinyl before everybody else does.
Nice.
And I'm going to get that today. I have a big collection. It's going to look real pretty in there.
Yeah, I'm super pumped. Like I said, I've got the test pressings, and then like the creamsicles are like in production, and then like they're already, at least like there's some coming to me and some coming to the warehouse, and like the ones that are for the warehouse are already like halfway sold out. Just in pre-sale.
Wow, so so good.
Yeah, it's been crazy. So if you want a creamsicle out there, like now's your time.
Okay. I'm gonna get it first before this airs. So well,
yeah,
it's
been cool. Yeah,
I appreciate you coming on the podcast. I hope I get to see you at Americana Fest.
Yeah.
And I look forward to watching what you do next.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me, and we'll talk again sometime, I'm sure.
Wow, I told you that story is special. Like, that's not the norm when you're releasing a new album, to get to explode onto the scene like that without major label support. So super exciting, big things happening for Philip Bowen. We're all going to follow along, right? America's Got Talent. We got to vote for Philip. The Alt Country Show is going to show up. Be sure to support him and grab his new album, Old Kanawha. Go find him on social media. Check out his singles that are already out, and go listen to that acoustic original version of Lightning Bugs. It's a good one. I'm Emily. Thanks so much for hanging out for the Alt Country Show. Visit us online at altcountryshow.com. All the past episodes are archived there. All our playlists are always ready and waiting for you to listen to on Spotify. And if you're on Spotify checking out the show, be sure to give us a rating, leave a comment on the show. If you're on Apple Podcasts, you can rate and review it as well. All of that would mean a whole lot to me. I'm Emily, and I'll see you back here next time.